Hi, I'm glad you could drop by today for this tutorial. I'm Ray Scott, and today on Visual Art Photography Tutorials, it really is all about being a neighborhood photographer as we head into the city to do some architectural photography. Now, it's not just any old architectural photography, it's about finding the angles. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be shooting up. Now, for those of you who live in a large city like, say, New York, Chicago, Hong Kong, whatever, it's really easy to find buildings that have interesting angles. But in some smaller cities, sometimes that's kind of hard to find. So I recommend, and it's almost one of our tips today, and I'm going to be giving you a whole bunch of tips on this kind of photography. One of the tips is to go to the financial district of that city. Usually those are newer buildings and they have a lot more interesting angles to them. So that's one of the tips that we're going to be looking at today. So I'll be heading down to the financial district to see what I can find there. And we'll be looking for all kinds of different things, but we're going to be shooting up. That's what's coming up today on Neighborhood Photographer. Before we head out to the financial district, I'd just like to mention that if you have any questions or comments, they can be addressed down below. So we're going to be looking to the sky for some great images. Let's go. So we headed out to the financial district, and that was our first tip. If you're living in a city that is not too large and maybe some of the buildings are kind of old, we're looking for angles today. So tip one, head down to the financial district, most likely to find more modern buildings in that area. Now, tip two, and this is a tip that I use every time I go out to do photography, but it's essential when you're shooting in the city, and that is warm up. Warm yourself up. Take some shots. Throw them away. It doesn't matter. This is one of those shots. I'm not going to keep this shot. There's nothing special going on here, but it was a way to warm up. And I always do this, but especially in the city because you have lots of people, you have lots of noise, you have lots of vehicles. There are a lot of distractions, and they're all pulling you away from getting in your zone, getting in your groove, concentrating on what you love to do, which is photography. All these things are distractions and they're trying to pull you away. So what I do is I warm up by taking a few throwaway shots. It's the digital world. You're not wasting anything. You can delete them, no problem. I end up trashing them. This one's going to the trash, but it got me thinking. It got me away from everything that was around me. My next picture. Hey, turn the building on its side. Who cares? Just get the juices flowing. Warm up. Same thing here. I decided to take the same building and it was up against another building. Two different textures, two different colors. Okay. All those three pictures are going in the waste basket. I normally wouldn't show you, but I just wanted to say you've got to warm up to get into your zone. Okay, so now that I'm warmed up, it's time to get serious. And it's tip number 3, shoot straight up. Okay, and you start getting some really interesting things going on like this. They become very, very abstract. And you know me, I love abstract photography. Shoot straight up. Same thing here. More interesting. Here it looks like I'm standing in the middle of the street, but I'm not. I'm on the sidewalk, but I've got my lens straight up. Now I was using my walk-around lens for all of this, which is a 24 to 105 millimeter lens, and it's set here at 24 millimeters. I have a wider angle lens. I did not bring it along, and I really didn't want it, and I really didn't need it, because if you go even wider, sometimes you're including stuff that you don't want to. But I will be going back for another shoot for sure, and I will bring that lens and see what I come up with. But this was shot at 24 millimeters, and of course, the f-stop is at f16. All of my shots were shot between f11 and f16. My ISO was set either to 100 or to 200 for all of these shots. There was plenty of light, even though it was an overcast day. Now, that brings us to our next tip. Tip number 4, be aware of the sky. Now, this was a mostly overcast day, and it worked perfectly for what I was doing because there was no detail in it. Look, it's just flat white. And of course, as you may have noticed already, all of my images so far, my serious images, after the warm-up have all been in black and white. And there's a reason for that. I just really love architecture in black and white. It's a personal preference. We're going to deal with something else a little later on in the show. But be aware of the sky. That's tip number 4. Because if there had been clouds here, I wouldn't have had this look, this sharp, crisp look. It would have taken away from what's going on here. So be aware of that. You may want clouds. You'll see that later on in this tutorial. But this is what I want it for right here. Overcast day, great for this kind of photography. Tip number 5. Look for subjects that can be used in other projects. Now, in this shot, I am actually leaning up against this building. I am my stomach and my chest are right up against this building, and I'm shooting straight up. And again, the sky really worked perfectly for me here because it was completely just overcast, just one thing of white, gray, that sort of thing. But what I really liked about this was this. It really doesn't look like a building. You have no idea what this is, really. It looks like a walkway, some kind of a walkway into oblivion. Now, this is where tip 5 comes in. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, that's all right, but I'm going to use this for another project in the future. And what I'm going to do with this, I'm not quite sure, but I do know that I'm going to use this as the base. And all this, I'm going to drop something else in back here. I'm going to composite. And I'm going to do something with this walkway and all that sort of thing. I'm going to turn it into something completely different where you won't even know that it's a building. You won't be able to identify it as such. It's going to be worked into a different image. So I was thinking ahead to something that I'm going to do in the future, which I haven't really finalized yet in my head, but I have an idea what I want to do. So when you're out there and these buildings have all these great angles and there's so much potential to turn them into something else if you're into that kind of thing. So tip 5, look for subjects that can be used in other projects. Tip 6, look for objects or symbols that could add interest to your image, like this. Also in this one, you may have noticed, the sky has changed a little bit, and I thought it worked really well for this because now there's a little bit of variation in the cloud, and it kind of adds some drama in here. But look at these buildings. Look at the way they're all falling into each other. And don't be afraid of that. Use your wide-angle lens and let the buildings topple on top of each other. It's a really great effect. Okay, we've been shooting everything in black and white, but you know something? You want to take advantage of color sometimes. So, tip 7, use color to your advantage. In some cities, some of the buildings have some beautiful colors to them. Look at this, look at this, look at that beautiful pink or magenta or whatever you want to call it. Why would you want to get rid of that? And it goes off, it works so nicely off against the little bit of blue in the sky. As the day started to clear up, when I started this shoot, it was very cloudy and overcast. Now it's starting to get a little brighter. So change your approach and include the sky, turn them into color, and look at the nice color of the building. Here's another one. Lots of angles and nice color. All right? So there's all kinds of different ways to do it, but in all of these images, I was shooting up. Isn't it amazing what you can find downtown in the financial district just looking up towards the sky? Great angles, even some great texture. In the next few months, I'll be doing some more architectural photography downtown, but with a whole different look than what we got today. Until next time, I'm Ray Scott reminding you it's not what you see, it's how you see it. And I'll see you soon.